Solidarity, community and camaraderie has been never so important. There is a pressing situation affecting thousands of people living with type 1 diabetes, fleeing Ukraine, fleeing an active war zone. I'm so glad to be joined today by Lena, who has been in touch with a lot of people in that situation. She's Ukrainian herself. She's from Horlivka. Sorry if I butchered that pronunciation. I did my best, but Lena, tell me what the situation is like on the ground in Ukraine.
Hi, Jamie. Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate the time I have to tell our story. The situation is devastating. The main part you probably get from the news, but the most devastating part is that we don't have green corridors. We don't have ways to deliver the humanitarian aid. So people are being shooted, civilians are dying, and for people with diabetes, this is especially tough and challenging time.
And the humanitarian corridors would really, go a step to solving this pressing issue, because as we spoke yesterday, what you told me was actually quite shocking, that people with type 1 diabetes in Ukraine are eligible for evacuation, but lots are deciding to stay and defend.
Yes, some people are deciding to stay. Some people with diabetes, for some reason, can't leave because they're stuck in a shelters or they're just afraid to leave under the fire. The green corridors were established yesterday, but for today, at this moment, Russian soldiers are keep shooting, and people can't leave.
Hang on. So there have been what Lena calls green corridors, we would say in the UK as humanitarian corridors. They're still actively targeting those areas.
Yes, unfortunately. Today was a planned evacuation from Mariupol, and people were ready to evacuate, but soldiers kept firing and they stayed.
So, I mean, this is a devastating piece of news to hear, especially when, as you've spoken previously, that people with type 1 diabetes, they can't necessarily flee and evacuate like the rest of areas can, because we're talking the emotional stress, we are talking walking for long hours, probably without food,
Yes.
and a lack of insulin. So, I mean, you've been fielding requests and fielding information from people on the ground in Ukraine. What have you been hearing?
I've got a group of 6,000, more than 6,000 of people with diabetes from Ukraine who are currently in Ukraine in different parts, all Ukraine. And what I see every day, it's desperate messages from main cities, from small villages where people stuck and they can't get to insulin. We have some supplies in our country inside, but people can't get to it. And this is the most desperate times for them.
And we heard reports earlier in the week about the Novo Nordisk warehouse being blockaded by Russian soldiers, Russian forces. Novo Nordisk came out and said that their warehouse was operating normally. Can you tell us a bit more about that? Do you know anything?
No, I unfortunately don't know anything about this. I heard that Novo Nordisk sent something, some cargoes to Ukraine with supplies, but I don't know if they'll succeed.
So what we're seeing is a lot of charities and non-governmental organisations coming out and saying, we'll handle it, just donate to the DEF. But what's the real situation? Because, we're a week in and people are suffering quite severe situations of insulin shortage. There are renegade operations all across the UK, as you know, of people getting supplies and getting them down to Kent to eventually get them over to Ukraine. Should we wait for these non-governmental organisations and charities, or is it better that we use our logistics brains and get it to there as fast as we can?
I think we should use both ways.
Yeah.
For now, we need to use our volunteer network So people in different parts of Ukraine who can deliver, risking their lives, can deliver something to people who are stuck in shelters and their homes. And later, this is a big collapse for our medical system. So people will obviously need some supplies later. And this is where charities can help.
But right now, what I'm inferring from that is right now it needs us, people, to solve the immediate issue, and then hopefully charities can deal with the long term. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think so.
And how, explain to me about the volunteers, the people who are risking their lives to get insulin to those in shelters. I mean, we spoke previously and people are spending around 3 days underground, in cold, damp conditions, not a place where I would like to store my insulin, but they're having to make it happen. So how are people managing their type 1 diabetes in these incredibly exceptional situations?
We have some doctors who can help them online. So every doctor, every endocrinologist in Ukraine now is working free and is available to every person who has internet and can reach them. If a person's stuck in a shelter, you can imagine how can they manage their diabetes. It obviously will be not effective, as they can't be calm enough. Sugars are rising because they're stressed, and you need more insulin in this situation. And if you are very limited in insulin and in food, you're just doing something little to survive. So they're just managing to survive and to get to safer place, and then to take care of their health.
And you're in the UK, you're in York. It must be really tough seeing what's going on, but also, it's a difficult feeling because who wants to be transported into a war zone, but also who wants to be so far from their family, friends, and country at such a difficult time.
Absolutely, it is absolutely a challenging time for me when I'm in a safe place, but I see every day this struggling of my loved ones, of my friends, of their friends, of their parents, some older people who can't live, people with some disabilities are just stuck. It's very hard to understand and to read.
But I'd like to let everyone watching and listening know that you've not just sat down and watched the news. You're active in addressing this situation. You've been working tirelessly to effectuate this sort of daisy chain of supply transfers. So just explain a little bit of how what my own and the people watching's donations, how they will get to the places where they're most needed.
Gladly, because if I'm not active, I will just sit and cry. To survive myself, I started to do something. This is vital for me. We are doing different stuff to help people with diabetes. Firstly, we gathered a lot of people in one group to understand what they need, where they're situated, what is the situation here. We asked them all to fill in the forms, so they would tell us what they need exactly, who is most desperate, who needs most. Then we started to gather everyone who wanted to donate, everyone who wanted to deliver insulin and other supplies to Ukraine. And we partnered with a big company called Type 1 Style, who collected 100,000 of pounds to help our people, and they're being amazing in this. They are delivering a big truck with insulin and other supplies to Ukraine. And we, from our side, we are helping them with our network of volunteers in all main cities and even in small villages. So hopefully, soon enough, they will get insulin and other vital stuff.
I think the first delivery of whatever supplies went recently, maybe yesterday. But obviously, this is easy to get to, relatively, to the Polish border near Lvivka, where people are fleeing to, but western Ukraine is where people are trapped, active war zones. People, like we've spoken before, people underground in shelters, people unable to or unwilling to move because the strength and defiance of the Ukrainian people is very admirable, but they do need insulin. So how is that getting, I mean, it's a very big country, how is that getting into the affected areas?
The most affected areas actually is east right now. The
Yeah.
situation, yeah, no worries. The situation is changing very, very fast, very quickly. And I'm asking my coordinators, those are people who stay in Ukraine, I'm asking them every few hours, what is the situation? What is the worst part of Ukraine now for people with diabetes? And for now, it's the eastern part. It's Mariupol, Kharkiv, and other eastern cities, which is being shooted and bombed heavily. So people are just stuck there. And honestly, I am very, very scared, and I can't guarantee that we can deliver there.
So there's been a massive sort of support network of people donating from the UK, and as far as I know, as far as I understand, that donation, that supply effort is heading to the Polish border near Lviv, where people are fleeing to. But one of the most pressing issues, as I understand, is that people are stuck in the most embattled area, Kharkiv, Kiev, Mariupol, places like that. How are we going to get the insulin to those people that are maybe stuck or unwilling to leave?
We can only do this with volunteers. So we have a company called Nova Poshta. Nova Poshta is a delivery company. And for now, they're delivering everything as volunteers. They have established connections with main cities, so they can deliver to those cities from the Polish border or even from Poland. And they deliver to these cities. And from these cities, we have people who are just have cars, or they had previously some product business or something else. They just have cars, and they take these packages, this insulin and supplies, and deliver them further. But there are some places where nobody can deliver for now, and that was what is worrying me and worrying everyone else. And we need to wait for these green corridors to deliver to these places.
And that's the most shocking thing, because you mentioned earlier on today that the green corridors are supposedly established, but for those green corridors or humanitarian corridors to work, it needs to be a partisan decision. Both sides need to agree that these are avenues for aid. And what you're saying earlier really worried me, in the fact that the Russian side isn't keeping to their bargain on the supposed corridors.
Yes, unfortunately, they were agreed that we will have corridor from 9 o'clock to, I don't know, maybe 3 o'clock. But the Russian soldiers are keep firing, so it's not a green corridor, actually.
No, not at all. In name only. And we think about that region. We think about the former Soviet Union. We feel, especially the Slavic countries, we feel a bit of camaraderie of that area of the world. And now two major parts of that world are being pitted against each other. And from what I'm seeing, neither population really supports this conflict.
You mean Russian population or Ukrainian?
Well, the Ukrainians are defending, but neither population wants this to be happening.
Well, obviously, there is a big connection, mental connection between what is going on with Russia in Russia and with the Soviet Union, Soviet era. And a lot of Russian people don't want to get there. They don't want to get back. And obviously, a whole world as well seeing this as returning to some kind of 37, 39.
Yeah.
Yes. So this is this is very, very frustrating for many people. They don't have many support with their politics, I would say.
Yeah. And just going back to Ukraine and the situation, let's forget global socio-economic politics for now, because there's a much more serious situation that we're dealing with. You're hearing many stories from Ukraine, from the affected areas, Mariupol, Kharkiv, Kyiv. Can you give us an idea of what people are going through right now?
I will try not to cry. I would say they're very, very exhausted. They're exhausted, but they have a hope. We understand this is our turning point in the history of relationships with Russia. If we give up now, we will go back with them, with the Soviet era, with KGB, all this scary stuff. And we understand that we need to stay until the end. Imagine I'm going to LinkedIn today, and I'm seeing my ex-boss, who I worked for 4 years in Kyiv. And he's in military clothing. He holds a gun, and he says, beauty business, stand up. He works in beauty business. He says, beauty business, come on, stand up. Don't walk with Russia. We are going to fight. We are going to protect our people. And that's how all we are feeling now. We are tired, we're exhausted, we are devastated, but we don't want to go back with Russia.
Wow. And that situation is only exacerbated, worsened with a condition like type 1 diabetes, and you've been in connection with thousands of people. I wonder if you could share a little bit of what people are facing in the affected areas.
They're facing shortages of insulin, and not only insulin, but other supplies like glucose monitorings, infusion sets, test strips. The test strips and insulin are obviously the most vital they need for now. And we are trying to get people connected. So, for example, if somebody has 2 pens, they can share 1 pen to somebody else who has 0. And dozens of people are sharing every day. They're helping each other. There is a big problem with people who stuck, maybe not in a shelter, but in smaller villages, smaller place where they're hiding. They can't get anywhere. They don't have transport. They don't have fuel to go somewhere. So I'm really surprised how people are getting connected, how people are helping each other in this situation. Even if you don't know, you can, against all this. Even if they don't, yeah. So amazing. This is amazing.
I mean, it's a great show of the support that our community of people with type 1 diabetes has, but it's such an unfortunate situation in which we had to see it. Lena, thank you so much. And the sort of network of donations is active and right across the UK. So if you would like to get in touch with Lena in York, it's very easy to do so. Or if you're in the southwest or even near the southwest and have something that you can and are willing to give, please do let me know. You can find me on social media and I'll come and get it, and I'll get it down to Kent. But thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you so much for listening to Lena, and thank you so much for Lena for giving up her time in such a difficult period in her life, because this story is really important to get out. So if you want to help us in this mission, then please do share this podcast, like this video, tweet me at jamie.lowe TV and leave a 5-star review. My name's Jamie Lowe. I hope you've enjoyed and got something from listening or watching this podcast. I'll see you next time.